He oversees the Ravens' public and community relations departments. And during his NFL career, he has started team marketing, he started TV, as well as website departments. And he's provided media relations assistance, and hear this, folks, at 25 different Super Bowls and 2 Pro Bowls at the NFL's request. So you know he's doing something right. And his duties have included contract negotiations, directing the team's marketing department, and serving on committees to interview and select Raven head coaches. And fortunately, that committee hasn't had to meet too often. They've done a pretty good job in that department. Please welcome everybody, Kevin Byrne.
Well, good afternoon, and happy St. Patrick's Day. Happy start of the NCAA tournament day, the real tournament, not the play-in games. It's a great day in Irish. My name is Kevin Michael Christopher O'Byrne, and my grandfather dropped the O when he came to Cleveland because they weren't hiring bricklayers who were Irish, and he got a job as a bricklayer and then helped start the union. So he's, we are a proud Irish family, and this is a good day. I did wear the ring, and what I like to do with the ring tells a story. This is for the most recent Super Bowl that we won not too many months ago. It just seems like years ago. The ring tells a story, and I think there are 144 diamonds on it. It's not something you can wear except when I remember to bring it when I speak. Inside are the scores of the games during the playoffs and the 3 words dearest to our head coach's heart: the team, the team, the team, which I know a lot of you believe in with your companies. So I'm going to pass around the ring, and you can take a look at it during the speech. I won't be offended if you take pictures. The best way to do it, by the way, is to put it on, put it up here, and have the person next to you, or if your arm's long enough, take the picture, and then you could say you had it on when you go home tonight. So here you go.
You want to lock the doors, Kevin?
I do want it back. I know in your recent CEO meeting, you talked about resilience. And Doug, Dr. Strauss, and Dr. Everly, and they discussed their book, Stronger. It's about facing adversity, right? And getting back up. We all face adversity, and we have to get up. And the Ravens plan to be all about that in 2016. We need to bounce back. And we've had a pretty good week as we begin this process to come back. A week ago, we signed tight end Benjamin Watson, who caught 75 passes last year down in New Orleans.
Great guy.
Yes. We signed Mike Wallace, who just terrorized us when he was with the Steelers, and he now has a quarterback like Big Ben who can throw it 70 yards in the air and take advantage of that special speed he has. And of course, yesterday we signed Eric Weddle, 3-time Pro Bowl safety, and solves a problem for us since the departure of Ed Reed a couple years ago. Weddle is a special player, and if you saw any of his press conference or read anything about him, you can tell that this is a guy who loves the game and wants to help us win a championship, and picked us over a couple teams that were offering a little bit more money because of our history and the fact that we play and we try to win championship every year. I'll talk about the Ravens. I hope we have a little fun here today. But first I want to talk a little bit about our history, the Ravens' history. In fact, when I was with the Cleveland Browns, and Art Modell was kind enough to invite me to come over here, I did not know much about the Mid-Atlantic. I didn't know my geography very well. I thought the weather would be similar to Cleveland, and now my wife and I think this is the south of France, so we love it here. But Art Modell, his history was, he was the first owner in the NFL who recognized that the marriage of football and television was going to be significant. And he had it in simple terms as he explained it to me once. He said, I was into television. I was one of the first television executives. And it was a little rectangle box. And I love football. And what's football played on? A little rectangle box. He said, if football field fits in that TV box, And that was one of the things that he did when he became the owner of the Cleveland Browns. He went to the league office and said that we should be involved in a bigger way with television. And obviously it has worked. The most watched shows in television history, and really television is a measure of our culture, right? And, sadly, it could be sad for some of us, but it measures what we do. How many people watched The Bachelor the other night? How many people watched the Oscars? How many whites watched the Oscars? How many minorities watched the Oscars? But the 48 most watched programs in the history of television are Super Bowls. So only 2 out of the top 50 programs of all time, most watched programs of all time, only 2 are not Super Bowls. Anybody want to take a guess what those 2 shows might be? Finale of MASH is one of them. Let's see if you get the other one.
I love this.
Who shot JR?
No? JR is close.
Mary Tyler Moore.
No? Final episode of Roots. The final, remember the document, or the Roots. The 16 most watched programs in Baltimore this year are what? Ravens football games. Whether we're home or away, the Oscars, name any event, a Trump debate, they all pale in comparison to us. We bring communities together. The 16 most watched programs in D.C. are the 16 Redskins game. And our 4 preseason games are in the top 30 programs in most watched. So our power on television is immense. In 2005, or since 2005, network television has lost 31% of its audience. During that same period, since 2005, the NFL has gained 35% in its audience. That's why we get all that money. That's why we're so valuable. And we know more women watched our game and digitally connected to our teams and the league, despite the fact that in 2014, we had the #1 worst story in the world of sport. We were right up front, Ray Rice. And for a year, women stopped watching, or a good percentage did. And it came right back last season. And again, it shows that one of the powers of the NFL, one of the powers the Ravens have, is we bring not only families together, not only business together, but generations together. I watch with my grandfather. I watch with my granddaughter. I watch with my brothers. I watch with my dad and mom. My mom took me to the games. And so it's a power that we have, and we don't take it lightly. I don't say it to brag. I say it because we realize it, and it's why we get involved in the community. It's why you see Ravens in the community, because we owe that to you for embracing us, and we take that very seriously. A little bit more about Art Modell, because he became a CEO like you, and some of you have his background, or close to it. Art Modell was a high school dropout in Brooklyn. His father was found dead in a motel in Dallas, and his father became a traveling salesman because his business went belly up during the Depression. And many believe that his father committed suicide while he was in this hotel in Dallas. So Art, in high school, with 2 sisters and a mom, quit high school, works in the hulls of ships in the Brooklyn yards, and he becomes an electrician's helper. And he then buys the Cleveland Browns when he had about $25,000 to his name, and he buys it for $4 million, which explains how he ends up in Baltimore. He was one with banks. He was never afraid to borrow. And the borrowing became too much, and he needed a stadium to produce some revenue, and God love Art. Instead, he made a deal to run the stadium, and it became a drain on his finances. So when the NFL started making money, the stadium was killing him, and there was a wash. And voila, Baltimore offered him something that Cleveland refused to do. After Cleveland had built a new arena for the basketball team and a new stadium for a baseball team that hadn't won since 1954. So we came here and we have no regrets. And how many of you met Art or got a chance to know Art when he was here? So you know his humor, you know his passion. I'll tell one Art Modell story. So in the history of Three River Stadium, the Cleveland Browns had not won. We were going over there for the 15th time. We were 0-14 at Three River Stadium. Now, it was Terry Bradshaw and Joe Green and those great Steeler teams with all the Hall of Famers, Jack Lambert. And Art used to laugh. He said, you know, we've run out of hotels to stay in Pittsburgh. We've bussed over there. We've flown out of there. I think we're going to take our team down to Cincinnati and take a riverboat up the Ohio River to change our luck. And so this is game 15 at Three Rivers, and we think we have a pretty good team and a shot. In the first series of the game, our best defensive player, who was a cornerback, a guy named Ron Bolton, gets thrown out of the game in an altercation with Hall of Famer Lynn Swann. And so Art becomes furious with that. We don't sit with Art during the games, or we didn't. We don't sit with Steve. Ozzie and I and a couple of others, Eric DeCosta, we go somewhere else. Bad to sit with the owner. Because if the owner is going, why are we doing that? And you say, I don't know why we're doing that. We're idiots. Well, the owner's going to go to the head coach and say, well, I was sitting with Kevin, and he thinks just like me. So we don't do that. We don't give the owner that opportunity. We stay away from the owner on game day. So anyway, Art calls me at my seat in the press box, because I have a phone with a bank of numbers on it, and he goes, why did you get thrown out? Find out. So I can't get the answer. I finally go down in the second quarter, and I get the referee, who is Ben Dreyf, famous referee, big man. I said, our owner wants to know why you threw him out. He said, because he spit on Lynn Swann. And, well, that doesn't sound like our guy. I said, I saw a guy punch. He goes, who are you? I go, I'm here for the owner. You know, and I said, I'm leaving. So I go back up to my seat. Now, Art sometimes, back in those days, would have a few pops during the game. And so he begins calling me at halftime saying, I want to go down and see referee Ben Dreyf. And I said, oh, you can't do that. And he said, don't tell me I can't do that. And I said, Art, you can't do that. It's against the rules. Don't tell me it's against the rules. I wrote the rules. We're going down. Come see me and take me down. Well, it literally takes me almost a full half to get to his owner's box, which is on the other side of the stadium, in this old Three River Stadium. And I get him, and then we have to, with like 10 minutes in the game, I got to get him downstairs because it's going to take that long to get him downstairs. And so we get there just after the officials go into the room. So Art bangs on the door, and you hear this big Ben Dreyf voice, who's there? Ben Dreyf, this is Arthur B. Modell, owner of the Cleveland Browns, and I want to talk to you. I'm coming in there. And then you hear Big Ben, Art, there's a $10,000 fine if you come in here. Art kind of straightens up and sobers up, and he goes, Ben, will you come out for $5? And Art's good friend Pete Rozelle fined him $5,000. He didn't fine him the 10. We've become year-round. The NFL has become year-round. It's amazing. You know, and I did a little show and tell because I was impressed with your show and tell. But here's the Baltimore Sun the last 3 days. Now, it's spring training for the Orioles, and they've got to be angry about this. And it's NCAA, both Maryland teams are there, and it's the height of lacrosse right now, right, Marty? Yep. It's big. So this is 3 days ago, top of the page, secondary to get a boost. 2 stories on Eric Weddle. Next day, Mike Wallace. Next day, we bring Eric Weddle to town. Eric Weddle again on the top of the page. So it's amazing how much influence and how interested you guys are in us, which is tremendous, which is why we have become a year-round fascination for folks. So we have the draft. There are names now. There are people in Baltimore, if you go to and interview 100 Baltimoreans and give them the name Joey Bosa, a college player from Ohio State, I'm telling you 7 out of 10 are going to say, well, I know who Joey Bosa is. I hope the Ravens draft him. Now, we didn't know Joey Bosa here 4 months ago, unless you're a real college football fan. Well, maybe because he was in the national championship 2 years ago. But it's amazing how these names now become common to us, and we're still over a month away from the draft. We have the draft itself will get television numbers. Listen to this. The draft, which is basically a listing of names, right? That's all it is. It's a listing of names, will get bigger numbers than NBA playoff games. On the first day of the draft 3 years ago, LeBron was in a playoff game against the New York Knicks. New York market, Miami market at that time. And the draft got bigger numbers than that. So it's fascinating to me how we do that. The combine, which is basically 300 college students running around in shorts, jumping high, running 40s, lifting weights, getting measured, all of that is now nationally televised by 2 networks. There are people sitting at home watching guys run 40-yard dashes. During the combine, by the way, I'll tell my favorite Brian Billick story, who won a Super Bowl for us and with us in 2000. Brian's is a good guy and a smart guy. And Brian likes to cut to the chase on many things. So you get 60 interviews during the combine. There are 300 there. You can list 60 guys. You get 15 minutes with them. 15 minutes. And there's somebody at the door pulling them out to take them to his team. And we have guys at doors pulling guys out, so you get your 15 minutes, you don't get more. So this one, you get a sheet on the guy, and Brian's looking at basically a rap sheet. The guy, he had been arrested in high school for robbery. He'd been thrown off his high school team as a junior and then became a high school All-American as a senior. He had been suspended twice in college, once for theft. And so Brian says, as he's looking at the sheet, he says, can I start when this guy comes in? Can I ask the first question? Because usually Brian does not. He says, sure, go ahead. So the kid comes and sits down. He's energetic and smiles and looks around the room. How do you do? Hi, I'm so-and-so. I won't give you his name because he's still in the league. And by the way, 4 Pro Bowls. And so Brian says, young man, I'm looking at your history. Can I ask you a question? He said, and the kid goes, yes, sir. He goes, are you a thug or are you just stupid? And the kid smiled and goes, are those my only choices, coach? And Brian goes, I like you, young man. The Ravens are everywhere. Desktop, mobile apps, tablets, social media. 70% of our traffic comes through social media and small devices. It doesn't come through newspapers. It doesn't come through television. Think about that. I've just talked about the television numbers. 70% of the people who come and want information about the Ravens are using their phones, are using their iPads, and it's a good thing for us. We have almost 3 million people on Facebook. We have 1 million on Instagram, 1 million with Twitter follow us. In the NFL, we're good. We're usually rank in between 5 and 7 on most people visiting. And think about that. We don't have a New York market. We don't have a Philadelphia market. We don't have Chicago. We're smaller, and we're penned in. We can't be Kansas City and have 10 states gathered around us. We have Philadelphia to the north, we have Washington to the south, and we have Pittsburgh to the west, so we are confined. But we have a group of people here who really are interested in us, and that's great. There's Sunday night football, there's Monday night football, there's Thursday night football, there's fantasy football. How many of you play fantasy football? I thought it would be a good number. Madden football, #1 video game every single year. There are people who play that game who have no idea who John Madden is anymore. And if they do know, they think he's a TV guy. And only some of us know that he was a Hall of Fame football coach who got into television. And one of the benefits of my job is that I get to work with these guys, and so when John Madden was here with Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football, he'd come in, then I'm the guy who he's going to talk with, and I'm going to bring in other people to talk with him, and he wouldn't fly. He was afraid of flying, so he comes in on the bus when you're at training camp, and they're doing a preseason game. He had Pat Summerall, and I really enjoyed. And Madden gets off the bus, and he is so energized. He says, "You're not going to believe this." Now, this is like 15 years after we've all been using the internet. He said, "They have put a computer on the bus, and I am, with a few clicks, and I get help with that, I can read the Dallas Morning News. I can read the Chicago Tribune this morning while I'm sitting on the bus, Kevin." And I said, "Well, welcome to the real world, Coach." He said, "No, you don't understand. We used to have to go like to a truck stop in Tulsa and pick up like newspapers from 40 cities. And then we drive and we get the next day to Indianapolis, and we go to the truck stop, and there'd be the next day's papers. And I'd be going through those, and that's how I kept up. Now, I don't even need those papers." And I said, "Well, Coach, do you mean you don't read a newspaper anymore?" And unabashed, he said in front of maybe 50 people right standing around, since he's had a big presence, he says, "Oh, hell no, you have to have a newspaper when you go to the bathroom." We like you guys do in your business, because you've had to do it, we like stepping out of the box. We like being different. Clearly, John Harbaugh, the hiring of John, was stepping out of the box. He had never been a head coach, not even at the high school level, never been a coordinator, offense or defense, which is a normal route, hadn't coached in college, hadn't been a head coach in college, he'd been a special teams coach, and the year before we hired him, he was a secondary coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. And he became the first NFL coach in history to go to and win a playoff game in each of his first 4 and each of his first 5 seasons. So he's historically good. He has led us to a status that we're one of 5 teams in the last 8 years that have gone to the playoffs 6 times. There are only 5 of us. The Patriots, the Colts, the Packers, us, and I've forgotten one other team. But there are 5 of us. That's good. But we are what we are today, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But I want to talk a little bit about what I think is John Harbaugh's magic that maybe you can apply in your business a little bit. He has this knack. He will walk into a Wednesday morning meeting, and he's got great energy. You've seen him. And he'll stand in front of the room, and he'll go like this. "Is there anybody in this room who doesn't believe that we could have the best Wednesday morning meeting in the NFL? If you don't think we can, raise your hand. Let me just see who doesn't believe we're going to have the best meeting in the NFL this morning." And all of a sudden, those sleepy players are sitting up. I mean, he does it all the time. I'll see him gather the players at the beginning of a practice that's not going well. He'll bring them in. He says, "Let me ask you a question. Is there a reason we can't have the best practice in the league right now? Let me ask you another question. Is there a reason we can't have the best practice in the history of the Ravens today? If you don't think we can have that practice, then I'm okay with that. Step out of the practice." Anybody going to step out of the circle? Son, you going to step out? Or are you going to have the best practice you've ever had today? Joe, can you have the best practice you've ever had? And he picks the moments like that they fascinate me. I'm going to play racquetball on a Friday afternoon with Eric DaCosta, our assistant general manager. And I'm walking down the hallway, and I pass John. And, "Hey, guys playing?" Yeah, all right. John says, "Don't get hurt." Or he said to Eric, "Don't hurt the old guy." But as I'm walking past, I say to myself, why can't I play better racquetball today than I've ever played on a Friday afternoon? Because I'll have to play my very best to beat Eric, who's younger and better than me right now. And it's those types of inspirations that I find fascinating about John Harbaugh. They're not magical. It's not different. But how about you guys have your next meeting? Is there a reason this can't be the best meeting we've ever had? If you have a Monday morning meeting, is there a reason this can't be the best Monday morning meeting we've ever had? That's what leaders do. And John is great at it. Let me look at the clock here. I think we're doing all right on time.
Yes, sir.
So, in a prior career, this is the start of the NCAA tournament. I was with Marquette University as their sports information director, and we won the national championship. We won the big tournament, the big dance, as our coach Al McGuire called it. How many have heard of Al McGuire? Became a great television announcer. Well, my 3 years with Al McGuire, his last 3 years of coaching, were as fascinating as I've ever had with a person. He's just a great, intelligent guy. Unfortunately, at the age of 72, 2 days after we won the Super Bowl in 2000, he passed away from leukemia. But he was a fascinating guy. And in 1976, we were ranked second in the country to Indiana. They were undefeated, and we were 22-1. And we had 2 more games left, and the second last game was at Butler, which wasn't as good as the Butler today. And we're playing at old Hinkle Fieldhouse, and it's packed, and people are booing Al from the moment we step on the floor because Al was a character, and he used to get the crowd to boo him. And with 5.5 minutes to go, we are up by 5 points with the ball. And Al calls timeout. He is just furious. And he starts launching into the players first. He said, "We're Marquette. Look over there. That's Butler. We're Marquette. We're the second-ranked team." Okay? And then he goes, Lloyd Walton, our point guard, and he just eviscerates Lloyd. I mean, he called them every name possible. He threatened them. It was just awful. And Lloyd finally had it and looked up and said, "Coach," he used those magic 2 words we're becoming familiar with, that become familiar with your middle finger. And he blurts those out to the head coach. And Al goes, "What? No. Well, you have this mixed up. I'm the head coach. I say that to you. You don't say that to me. In fact, you're off my team." And so Al goes back to the huddle and he goes, "Guys, let me say it again. We're Marquette. That's Butler." And Lloyd's still standing there. And he goes, "Lloyd, I kicked you off the team." Now, this is our All-American point guard, by the way. And so Lloyd is just standing there. So Al walks around, grabs him by the back of the jersey, and kind of shoves him away from the huddle. Lloyd goes beyond the bench, beyond the trainer, beyond the priest, because that's what you have at Catholic universities. And he grabs the trainer's black bag, and he's sitting on that. In those days, no shot clock. And we were a great team in handling the ball. 5 minutes to go, we were going to dribble for 5 minutes and go home. So Gary Rosenberg replaced Lloyd Walton, little kid from Marquette High. And Rosenberg, at about the 3-minute mark, dribbles off his knee. Ball goes out of bounds. Butler comes up, makes it a 3-point game. Now Al yells, "Run delay," which was called Ohio State. "And if you have a chance for a layup, take the layup." Well, that's what we're going to do for the last 3 minutes of the game. About 1.5 minutes to go, Gary Rosenberg has the chance for the layup, and he misses it. So they go down and score. It's now a 1-point game against Butler. So Al stands up, calls timeout. I'm sitting next to Al's seat at the scorer's table. And he goes, "Guys, let's not let this happen. We're going to win this game." And then he goes, "Okay, remember, we're Marquette. Look at them. That's Butler." And then he said, Rosenberg, "You're out." And he sits down. 4 guys go out on the floor. Al looks down there and goes, "Walton, get your ass back in the game." And Lloyd smiles and trots out there. And Al turns to me and winks and he goes, "Here's the lesson learned. In this business, your stars have to learn their lessons in a hurry." We believe, the Ravens, that we're a cutting-edge franchise, that we focus on winning championships every year. We're 20 years old. And we had 10th anniversary here. We're 20. We're celebrating our 20th, or we did last season. And we've made the playoffs half of those seasons, which is pretty good. 50% of the times we're in the playoffs. We have 2 Super Bowl titles that you're aware of, which is great. But you know what we are today? We're an also-ran. We are a 5-11 team. Coach Harbaugh is a 5-11 head coach. Ozzie is a 5-11 Hall of Fame general manager. Steve Bisciotti's a 5-11 owner, and I'm a 5-11 senior vice president. Eric DaCosta is a 5-11 assistant general manager. It's awful to be where we are, but we plan to be resilient. We plan to bounce back, and we're going to come back. I could talk about the team and all aspects of it in various ways, but instead, I'm going to let you ask what you want to ask about the team. I'll answer anything. I'm assuming there are no reporters in here, and I'll be as honest as I can be without spilling the beans. I'm not telling you who we're drafting because I don't know. I kind of have a feeling if the guy's there who we'd love to see there, or one of 2 guys we'd love to see there, and we've been pretty lucky over the years in getting that guy to drop to us. We'll find out. Go ahead.
Yeah. What's your opinion about the deflate gate, and where is that case right now?
Well, I think they cheated. I think they cheat regularly. I worked 5 years with Bill Belichick in Cleveland.
Repeat the question for the...
Oh, I'm sorry. What do I think of Deflategate? I think the Patriots were cheating. And I think the record of fumbles shows that. And I think I speak for the rest of the league that won't say it publicly, and I wouldn't say it publicly, but we all hope that they are slapped and slapped hard, and the suspension of Tom Brady for 4 games will wake up the owner and say, you can't have that. You can't have it. We go to New England and we hire services to see if there are things in the ceiling, I had to tell our team, because I knew what we did in Cleveland, you can't leave things at the hotel. Don't throw things away. Don't throw notes away. Because Bill's got deals with hotels, pick everything up out of the garbage and let us see it. So they look for every edge. Is that cheating? Are you looking for an edge or are you cheating? Well, you can interpret that. So,
Kevin,
yes.
way back when John was hired, the offer was made to that Dallas coach.
Yes, Jason Garrett.
What he said he wasn't a coordinator, he didn't go through the ranks. How did he even catch your eye, or the team's eye, to even have him be in the running for that position?
Well, we had this winnowing process, and he kept, what we do is call people. So on John, I think we called 74 people eventually, and they were all painting the portrait of the same person. So he gets on the list originally because somebody in that group of ours, somebody like an Eric DaCosta said, hey, there's the secondary coach, special teams guy at Philadelphia. They tell me he's special. Maybe he's somebody we ought to talk about. Well, then we start calling people about John Harbaugh, and we have about 7 people involved. So I might call 12 people, and I might call Troy Aikman, who's doing games for Fox. So he knows John Harbaugh when he does Philadelphia games, and as it turns out, he's best friends with Jason Garrett. So a guy like Troy Aikman could give you 2 points of view. But with John, everybody we called would always end up saying the same thing. He's going to be a head coach someday. So he eventually gets to our final 6 as we got to interview him. And then when you meet him, he is exactly what you've seen for 8 years. He is unabashed with his enthusiasm. He has certain beliefs, and he sticks with them. The same things he said in the interview are the things he believes today. He doesn't waver from those. There's a certain way to play. There's a certain way to act. There's a certain way to conduct yourself as a Raven. And and Steve Bisciotti, who thinks outside the box, was enamored with the guy. And in the middle of the Jason Garrett trying to hire Jason, this is like 2 or 3 in the morning, Steve, because I'm in the group, and I'm waiting to put up the puff of white smoke that we have a head coach. Steve calls me and he goes, hey, I don't think the guy wants the job. I don't think it's about money. He can say, I got to talk to my agent. Well, I don't want a guy who's got to talk to his agent. I want to pull the plug on this guy. So that's the truth of what happened. And eventually, Dick Cass, our president, talked to his agent. He said, we're going to move on. But we clearly offered him a job. We didn't lie about that. We didn't feel that we could we try to be honest all the time. We offered him a job. But in the end, Steve Bisciotti said, I am not begging him to take my job. And then he said, let's get John Harbaugh here the next day. It's a great scene, real quick, in the room. So we're in the room, and it's Ozzie and Eric DaCosta and Vincent Newsom and Dick Cass, our president, and Steve. And Steve goes, is he our guy? Is Harbaugh our guy? Now, this is our second day of interviews we just completed with John, and we're all going, he's the guy. He's the guy. So bring him into the room. So we bring him into the room. He sits like, if Steve's there, John's here, I'm here, Ozzie's here. So Steve's looking at him, and he goes, do you think you could do this job? And John gives a great answer. He goes, I don't have all the answers, but with the collection of people you have in this room, I think I have a lot of answers right here who could help me be a great head coach. And I'm going to be a great head coach for somebody. And so Steve goes, well, we think you can do the job. And John says, well, thank you. And then John stops. He goes, wait a minute. Are you offering me the job? He did just like that. And Steve goes, yes. He goes, well, then I'll take it. And he stands up and he reaches across me and he shakes Steve's hand. I thought, what an innocent, great moment that is. So he's pure of heart. I'll tell you, I've met some people in the business, but he's pure of heart.
Kevin, 3 quick related questions. Should Ray Rice ever play again? Will he ever play again? And do you have any regrets about how you were a Raven?
Yeah, we have lots of regrets, including someone here writing a column in the Byrne Identity talking about how much I liked Ray Rice. And I still do. And I do think that what happened was not common to his life. First of all, there's the factor of a running back, now close to 30, who hasn't played for 2 years. That's a tough thing to do. But I don't think he's going to get the opportunity. Because whatever owner, or you're the head coach and you want Ray Rice, and you go to the owner's going to say, you know what? When we hire Ray Rice, what's the first thing that's going to happen? The video. The video goes around the world that this franchise hired Ray Rice, the woman who punched his wife in the elevator. And then when he scores his first touchdown, what's going to happen? It's not going to be the touchdown video. It's going to be the video of him punching. And so I don't think he'll get that chance. In some ways, I feel badly about that because the Ray Rice that I'm familiar with, and I was as close to Ray as any player at the time, but he did it. He screwed up. And he's paid the price for it. And he provided an inspiration to wake up a lot of people in society, that this is going on. So that's the positive that came from it. And I was glad that we became part of a group that said all teams should get involved with education, give money, and get involved with their local groups. Yes?
Kevin, in your opinion, what is the difference between Ray Rice and Greg Hardy?
Oh, Greg Hardy should not be in the league. But the difference is video. So Greg Hardy, if you saw the story, dragged a woman down the stairs by her hair, slapped her around, then threw her on a futon that was covered with guns that Greg Hardy owns, and the Dallas Cowboys signed him. And he played last year and he had, 6 sacks or something. But I would say that there would have been 26, 27 teams that would not have signed him. Yes, back here.
Kevin, differences between Art and Steve?
Both interesting. Fathers died when they were young. Steve's father died when he was 8 of leukemia. And both earned their own money, which I think is important. They're regular folks. Both great humor. Steve is fascinating with the way he views things. Every now and then we'll look at each other and go, that's why Forbes says he's worth $3.2 billion, whatever it is. He's just different. Now, Steve was an awful student, and he worked hard at it, but it turns out he's dyslexic, but they didn't They didn't know. So he went to the only college that would accept him, Salisbury, and that's because his brother was there paying tuition already. And so he's got an insecurity about his intelligence, but it's clearly there. But he is just, he'll come in and say, why don't we do this? And Ozzie will go, I didn't think about it that way. And so, and he loves the draft. And he sits in that draft room and he wants to make trades. And he wants to get more value. I mean, he loves it. And Ozzie's got to battle him a little bit. I'll give you an example, the Joe Flacco. So we have the 8th pick in the draft that year, and we have Matt Ryan and Joe Flacco. And the consensus was that Matt Ryan was the better quarterback. There was some in our organization who felt Joe was better, including 2 of our prominent scouts and our offensive coordinator, Cam Cameron. And so Ozzie said, after Matt Ryan is taken by Atlanta with the 2nd or 3rd pick, and we tried to trade for that pick, but they just wanted too much, I'm going to trade out of 8 because we love Joe Flacco more than anybody else. And the owners go, whoa. Ozzie, you've told me for years we're out in the desert here looking for a quarterback. Now we got somebody we love, and you're telling me we're going to trade out? Wonder if somebody loves him as much as us. And Ozzie goes, trust me. I know what other teams are doing. We know what other teams are doing. So now we trade down to 26. We have the 26th pick. And Ozzie is convinced, and more so, Eric DaCosta, our assistant GM, is more convinced that we can get him at 26. So Steve's sitting there saying, I don't know about you guys, but this is a long time to wait. We love him. How come we're not trading up? And so Ozzie starts getting nervous because, Steve's the boss. And so he starts calling teams, and the team with the 18th pick, Denver. I think it was Denver. They're willing to leave and come down to 26, and they're asking for a lot. And Eric DaCosta, he stands up in the room. That's robbery, Steve. They're screwing us. We can stay at 26. I'm convinced we. And Steve looks at him. He goes, "Don't be so hungry for draft picks. We need a quarterback. Ozzie, go get him." And Eric just slumps shoulders and, well, I think we can get him at 26. Steve says, I heard you. Ozzie, let's go get our guy. And we traded up from 26 to 18, went to the AFC Championship our first year with Joe, and he became the Super Bowl MVP in 2012, when in 4 games he had 11 touchdown passes, no interceptions, duplicating the great Joe Montana feat from Super Bowls 20 years before that. Yes?
Speaking of Joe, I don't know if you can answer this, but with his inconsistency last year, was his knee bad before he got knocked out? Was it the offensive line not providing the protection? Was it receivers not running the proper patterns, or was it Joe?
I think Joe has to take some responsibility, but we lacked weapons. I mean, we're out there with 36-year-old Steve Smith getting double-teamed, and he's still making all the plays. We have all these young tight ends, and Crockett Gilmore was coming, and it looks like he's going to be the real deal, and he goes down. Then Steve goes down. Now we trade for a guy from the Rams, Chris Givens, who now is just a guy. Marlon Brown can't separate from people, although we re-signed Marlon this morning, by the way. But he's a big target. But when you get near the end zone, Marlon Brown is he's a 6'5" guy who can jump and catch, and so but with our new receivers now, hopefully Perriman and Wallace, he won't need to run downfield. But we just didn't have any weapons. But the good thing with last year with all the injuries, Max Williams got to play, the tight end. He's the real deal. Crockett Gilmore got to play more, and he showed that he's the real deal. So I think you put weapons with Joe, you have the ability to run the ball, and let him, because Joe can nonchalantly stand here and do this and throw it 65 yards. And when he cranks it up, he'll throw it 80 yards. It's a remarkable arm. What's more remarkable, I've never seen him put ice on his arm. He's just got that thing dangling there, and it's a gift.
Is rehab going all right?
Yes, yep, I saw Joe this morning in the training room. He's there every day. You don't have to worry about Joe Flacco. There'll be no headlines with Joe Flacco at midnight or 2 in the morning. He is in that training room at 7 o'clock, and he leaves the building about 1 o'clock. And he's not rushing home because he's got 3 little kids all under 4 years old at home waiting for him.